This is DJI's wide-angle lens for the Mini 4 Pro. So let's jump straight in to the issues with this lens. The distortion is pretty wild. You can see here the buildings on the outer edge of the frame turn into curves and then straighten up through the middle, then curve back out again. Now this happens in the top, bottom, left and right of frame and pretty much distorts anything in those regions. The only safe space is the middle of the frame if you're not moving. So if you plan to tilt or pan the camera while in flight, you're pretty much going to leave your audience nauseous, and in my opinion it makes the footage pretty much unusable in a professional setting. You can see the bridge there just pinching out at the bottom. Moving on to what looks okay is if you don't move the camera and you only move the drone up and down and left and right, you kind of are able to keep it more sensible with that distortion. So you can see the horizon is still kind of curved, but overall this is a much more usable frame and correctable in post. So as long as you're not really hectic with your camera movements, this lens really does give you that wider angle and will give you more in your scene, particularly in tight spaces and or cityscapes where you just want to show the size and fit as many things in as possible. So these ones I feel are kind of acceptable. I don't think the average viewer would notice too much of the distortion or find it off-putting while they're watching. So keeping things in the center is the safest way to do it. Now here we go back to the normal lens. You can just see how straight all the edges are. The top, bottom, left, right, those buildings are pretty much perfect. When you're panning, nothing gets too crazy out of whack there. And then obviously when you tilt up and down, there's a little bit of movement, but it definitely doesn't have that absolute crazy distortion that the wide angle has. So this is my preferred focal length for this drone. There has been times where I need to use the wide angle and I've been happy with the results, but just understanding that you don't want to do any dynamic camera movements when using this lens, unless you're using that look for a creative sense in your piece. But other than that, I think, sticking to the normal lens where possible, or knowing about that distortion and how it acts when you're moving the camera. Now, the other consideration you need to have with this lens is that because of its size, there's no option to put ND filters or polarizers. So you're kind of using the wide angle and then you're just going to have to control the light with the ISO and shutter speed, which isn't ideal if you're trying to not get that choppy movement when doing video. And this is a little problematic. So that's probably one of the other downfalls that I have, is I kind of have to just, sit back and just accept that my shutter speeds are going to be completely out of whack. But knowing that I'm using this lens for a very particular reason, given that I need to show something that I don't have room to use the normal lens with. So third-party products like Freewell's wide-angle lens kit does have NDs that will fit its wide-angle lens, but it is problematic because it will most likely put your weight over 250 grams, which is then problematic for licensing and locations to fly. So let me know in the comments below what you think. Has DJI dropped the ball by letting this out into market as is? Is that distortion far beyond acceptable in a professional standard? Or is there enough use cases to use it safely to get that extra field of view and it makes it worthwhile to have it out? Love to hear your thoughts.